Well, hello to the first steps of God.
Hey.
We love that. We will get back to what that all means later on in another show. But today we are myth busting. Mm-hmm. And we're asking the question, is science just part of the modern era, or was the Middle Ages very scientific? What do you think?
Well, it was an age where there were just so many advancements that it would just be utterly ridiculous to call it unscientific. And there's things they made which we can't replicate today. Like Greek fire is a great example of this. That it was this liquid and it could like burn underwater, and they shot it out with flamethrowers and things. You know, like this is very advanced stuff that people don't associate with medieval period.
Can they make Greek fire today?
They can't. They can't. They've got some of. They've got like grenades that were full of Greek fire. They can't figure out how it's made, because it was made by these like alchemists, and they had a very different way of thinking about the world. But they produced this stuff.
Alchemists.
What's an alchemist?
We've got to get into that.
We're going to have to do a whole show on that.
Let's do it.
Not right now.
Not right now.
No, but just as an example how they
technology.
understood technology, how they understood the world and could make unique things, and we can't even do what they did.
And what about the care in medical care? Didn't you say?
Yeah, huge advances in medical care. Well, they invented soap first, and we use that. That's like intrinsic to.
Was the idea that we were only clean just in the last few hundred years or so?
Yeah, it was medieval. We invented soap, and the first liquid soap, then hard soap they did as well. But then care of like the sick, particularly the poor sick and everything. And like there was an order just dedicated to helping lepers called the Lazarenes, and loads of the treatment we give lepers to this day is based on what they did.
Now, what's the era of that?
That started in the Crusades. In the Crusades, loads of hospitals came out of the Crusades. At first to help the pilgrims, because it's such a long way. If you could imagine, you're traveling from like Ireland all the way to Jerusalem, usually by foot. You might have picked up something. It's like, so they set up hospitals all along the way, but especially in Jerusalem for those sorts of things. And then they started treating other people as well, the locals and everything. That's why it started, and then it spread out. And then these hospitallers and things went all around Europe and beyond, and you can find them all over today, all over the
This was
the
in
world.
the Christian medieval era. This is not really, we're not talking about very recently.
No, 1,000 years ago, isn't it? A very long time ago.
And I think one of the things that, a classic one I get into things with, people go, oh, but look, when Galileo was trying to show that the sun is the center of the universe, we would say solar system, but the church totally resisted that, and it was like Christians were against him, and he had to fight again. I'm like, whoa, first, Galileo was a devout Christian.
Yes.
Two, like Copernicus, one of the reasons he said what first made him think that the sun was in the center of the universe, he said, well, because it's like God. It makes us think about God, and surely that must be at the center of the universe. So he was theological about his thinking.
Brilliant.
And the other thing was the notion that the earth is the center isn't a Christian idea. That's not a Bible idea. That was from the Greeks. That was the ancient pagans who taught that. It was the Christians who rejected that view. So when Galileo, when he said, I don't believe that anymore, he was rejecting not the Bible, he was rejecting the pagan view of the universe and bringing in a biblical Christian view.
So why do so many people say, no, it's the Christians that used to think all these wrong things? Why is it that nobody believes or understands that actually a lot of false thinking came from paganism?
Anyway, it was really interesting that when Galileo was putting those ideas forward, it wasn't that the church said that is definitely not true or anything like that. They said we need to think about that, because he had this one model and there were other models and they were investigating it, and it was just nothing what people think it is. And then in fact, when you go back, Christians embraced it, understood it, advanced those ideas. It was Christians that advanced these ideas and developed these incredible new ways of understanding the world and appreciating it. And then when the Royal Society began, that's been probably the main scientific society in the whole of the world for the past 400 years. 85% of the people that set it up were Puritan Christians, like not just
really conservative,
Christian people, not like part-time Christians. They were like seriously Christian people who were like absolutely driven by the Bible.
Yeah.
And it was almost like the more they were passionate about the Bible and Jesus,
the more they asked questions, the more they investigated, and they wanted to know what really was going on.
It was, and they were the ones asking the big questions and prepared to go like experimental method.
Yes.
To say, like, why would you experiment on the world? It's actually a really deep question, because like some philosophies of the world say, well, the physical world isn't real. Yeah. It's just imaginary. There's whole religions that think that.
That just robs us of half our reality.
Half our reality. And you say, well, you won't do experiments if you don't think it's real. Or some religious philosophies say it's evil, physical things. Again, you don't do experiments on it.
Again, you miss out on half of your
And then you've lost everything.
Existence.
Yeah, there is no science develops with religions that think the world is evil or an illusion. There is no science.
Or has no meaning. I mean, ultimately, why would you investigate a world that you really think has no beginning or no beginner and has no end? And when you die, well, what's the point? I mean, why?
What's the point?
There are people who investigate it and they start from that premise. But if you really philosophically think it through, why would you?
Where's it going?
And it's like for Christians, it's especially potent because it's not just like we had a world who made we had a God who made the world and said it was good. We had Jesus who is our God, and he went into the world and was a part of it. That's why we have the first steps of God icon on the wall to remind us of that fact, that he loved it, and it's good that his legs weren't completely strong and he had to train them, and he had to. That's all the completely physical things that he had to learn physically things. Is a good thing, and Christians have always been proud that is our God. We utterly worship him as that man who had to learn to walk and that.
That's
physical.
right. That's why when it comes to science, I say everyone's anti-science except Christians. Because Christians are the ones who get the reality of the physical world, the rationality of it, the meaning, and our God is physical. And so it's like the Christians are the ones who all the way back to the medieval period, beyond that to the early church fathers, everything, these centers of and always this desire to take the world seriously and understand it and treat the human body seriously. Always it's Christians who pioneer these things because we think so highly of the physical world and the body. That comes out of the Bible, it comes out of Jesus.
Now, there were also early church fathers or even preachers in the Middle Ages that really were scientific as well. Tell us a little bit more about that. Because people think that, the church fathers and the Crusaders or some of the preachers of the Crusades, they were like, and not really intelligent, and they were barbaric.
Yeah, they do.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Example of one of the preachers of the Crusades, Second Crusade, Bernard of Clairvaux, and lots of
his songs on Jesus.
If you
they're amazing,
isn't it? All Christians will kind of know. Jesus, thou joy of loving hearts, thou fount of life, thou light of men. From the best bliss that earth imparts, we turn unfilled to you again. We often sing those ones. That guy was... Now, one of the things that people don't know about Bernard of Clairvaux, not only is he in love with Jesus, and he was preaching the Second Crusade, awesome, everything.
We'll talk about that, because some people
again.
go, what?
No,
We'll talk about that.
But have a look at this. I say to people, he developed loads of technology in his monastery, and it were like water wheels that would automating work. And people came from all over the world to see this technology that he was implementing. And it was like water wheels. Other people had discovered them, but they didn't use them for the betterment of human beings. They kept them for elite people.
Now, that's the Christian idea.
Yes.
You investigate, you discover, you design, and you give it to the world.
Yeah, give it to the world for the betterment. So he wanted all his workers and people to be freed up to spend more time doing great things and designing great things and studying the Bible and helping people. So he's like, let's find ways to automate the boring tasks, grinding corn and moving water and things like that. So he made all these amazing machines. That was all this deep, complicated technology with cogs and wheels and automation. And that's part of the medieval period.
And just to really wrap that all up, really what we're saying is true science and true discovery and true invention comes from those who really do believe in God.
Yes.
And not just any God, but the God who gives us his name, who learned to walk.
Yeah.
And it's all true, and it's all part of our reality, both the physical and the spiritual and emotional, and we must bring that all together. When you're a Christian, you actually understand and believe the whole of reality.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, we'll keep talking about that through the next shows. Bye-bye.